What up, everybody? Live broadcast of the Triple Option presented by Noles 24/7. I am here with my three best friends anybody could have, Coach Adam Brown, Kevin Little, the Video Vice Lord, and the Traveling Man, the Ramblin', Brendan Sonnone. What's up, boys?
Hello.
How's it going?
I'm good. I'm live. We're doing it live. Are you guys live right now? You guys ready to go? A little live show interacting with the fans. Got my juices all flowing. What about yourselves?
Oh,
I'm stressed to the max, but we're good.
Okay, so no,
Maybe
that's a hard no.
out.
Why are you
It's
stressed
been,
out,
dude,
big man?
it's been a horrible week. Listen,
how many chickens have
my
died?
5-year-old got a bead stuck in his ear. Then he goes into inner ear infection. It's been a hell of a week, man.
A bee
Sorry, big dog.
or a bee,
Well,
like a bumblebee?
A bead, like a craft bead. I don't know. I don't know how the hell to describe it.
I knew you were. I
It's
knew
been
you
a
were a
shit
big
show
hot-
in the AB household.
Okay, well, listen. This will be your respite, as everybody else's who's on the live stream with us. Beads in ears, bees in ears, insects, craft objects, whatever orifice they're stuck in yours or your kids. Let's talk about Florida State football. Now, listen, guys, we are going live stream, obviously, on the old on the Noles 24/7 YouTube page, right, guys? This is what this one's streaming off of.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So Noles 24/7 YouTube page. We would invite all you guys to like, subscribe, tell everybody about it. We're putting a whole ton of content. And this is a very live video channel right now. So subscribe, like, put your notifications on. Also, exciting development. This audio is also going to be on the On the Bench podcast feed. It's going to be under its own special X's and Noles. We're going to have like little different, different episode indicators, because it's going to start to become more of like a comprehensive feed. So look out for that. If you can't listen, if you're not with us now, don't worry. All of our audio is going to be going on that feed. So subscribe to that as well. Like, 5 stars, blah, 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 blah. Anything that I missed, guys, before we can start talking about football?
It'll potentially be a Noles 24/7 podcast network, but working title.
Be on the lookout for a new RSS name. Very exciting. Listen, big things are happening, just like big things are happening for Florida State football. My God, look at all these notes. Brendan, you've been a busy little bee. You're on the road for ACC Media Days, but you decided to join us because we're going to be talking about two major things. Every year you compile your 40 most important players list for the Florida State University football Seminoles, and we're also going to be talking about everybody's favorite subject in the offseason, who got fat and who got skinny. We're going to be talking about weight changes, muscle mass, body composition. We're going to be doing it all. We're going to talk about both those things. First, I want to hop into your top 40 players list. It just concluded. You did a wonderful job on it. For everybody who's not familiar, Brendan, you put together this list every offseason and you say top 40 most important players. What the hell does that mean? How do you come up with this list? Is it the best? Is it the most important to the team? What is it?
It's the most important. What a nebulous, wonderful term, right? It can mean
Yes,
a lot
you
of things.
vague little boy. Now tell me what it means.
I basically make it to where no one can quite yell at me because I can just say it can mean whatever you want to mean. To me, important essentially means how hard would that player be to replace? How much of an impact can they make on wins and their absence have on losses? And really, I try to put positional value into it as well, Trey. Like a quarterback is going to be inherently more valuable than a fullback. Sorry, fullbacks out there, but just touching the ball every play is gonna be a little different. So those are some of the factors I try to put into there. Also, like upside potential. What if that player like reaches that threshold? What that would mean? Like last year, Andrew Parchment was in the top 5. We could say he certainly wasn't a top 5 player in terms of production or quality, but his impact to the team, you saw how much the passing game struggled. If he was the 2019 version of Andrew Parchment at Kansas, then you're cooking with something. Hell, that could probably be an extra win at the end of the day that he probably nets you, but that's not really what you got out of him, and hence the passing game was awful. So yeah, that's basically how we try to weigh quote unquote important.
Right. So it's a little bit of analysis, evaluation from what they've done, a little bit of prognostication. Hello, Adam. Good to have you back. A little bit of prognostication, a little forecasting of what they're going to do. I like it. It almost kind of sounds like an NFL draft, right? Like you try to pick the combination of fit, best player available. One thing I do have a question for you, because it's 40 players. I want to break it down in chunks of 10. I do want to ask, like, there were some guys that didn't make this list, and do you want to go either through that now, or do you want to go through that after we've talked about all 40?
We can go through it now because they are kind of the outside looking in types.
What was, and I've got a whole list of them right here. Who are the toughest guys for you to cut?
Well, so first off, a mistake. I totally forgot about Greedy Vance. I had him on the list, and then I just
he was on my list.
So he probably would have been in like he's probably like your fourth cornerback. So he probably would have been at the back end of the 30 range anyways, but probably deserved to be on the list.
Well, Vance was getting a lot of nickel snaps.
Right. And so
yeah, in
probably,
the spring. So
yeah, so he's right, Kev. You're like your third or fourth corner probably. So yeah, that's
which we play 3 corners, so that's pretty important.
yeah. No, that's
not trying to rub it in, just trying to add.
Oh yeah, no, we're gonna rip your list to shreds. Adam, I've got some names here. Before I read them out, are there any names from you looking at Brendan's list that you were just aghast that he didn't put on his list? And if you can't think of any that aren't on the list, I'll name some and I'll get you fired up. How about that?
No, I mean, I thought that Greedy was the only main one that was kind of left out. He was the only one that stood out to me, and I was like, oh, where's he at? Why isn't he on there? But I mean, look, doing top 40 lists, there's nothing easy about that. So people are gonna leave stuff out. I'll leave the ripping when it's the ripping section of the top 40 list, because I mean, any list that includes a Y and a Y is, I mean, I think immediately can just be set aside, right?
That'll be fun. That's at the very end. So that's what we like to call a tease in the biz. So wait for that. But some names that didn't make the list: Greedy Vance, aforementioned. Sam McCall didn't make the list. I thought that was interesting. Mm-hmm. Sidney Williams, who actually got a lot of burn as a young player. The linebackers didn't really. Yeah, Dix didn't make it. Gant didn't make it. Josh Farmer, Daniel Lyons. There wasn't too many others that really stood out to me. Oh, one
Gainer
actually
didn't make it.
No, he did, but that's a note for later. He's lower than I think a lot of the fan base would expect. So you can either agree with Brendan or crap on Brendan afterwards. One name that didn't make the list that I thought was interesting was Keyshawn Helton from the wide receivers. Was that a tough cut for you, or was that fairly easy based on all the transfers that came in?
It was tough because Keyshawn's been in the 20 range the last couple of years, and that's
right.
Polarizing, and people are always like, oh, if he's our 23rd most important player, we're probably in trouble. And lo and behold, the passing game has been in trouble. So, he probably, you can reasonably say, he's in the top, 30 or so potentially, but I don't know if he's going to be returning punts this year. I don't know if you want that. So the value's diminished a little bit there. I mean, Kev, you're at practices. Was Keyshawn even in the top 4 or 5 this spring? He seemed pretty limited to me.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because it feels like in the spring, especially, they were kind of leaning on experience and kind of not trying to show their hands by throwing transfers or young guys in ahead of experienced players that they'll probably get more snaps than come season. But yeah, I think he's your 4th wide receiver right now, 3rd wide receiver.
When you go out and get 4 wide receivers, isn't it hard to list some of those guys? I mean, and he didn't exactly have a blow you away kind of season last year. I mean, it makes sense that he would be
exactly
maybe falling down that list.
Well, yes. That's exactly what happened. I want to start it off. Normally lists go from 40 to 1. Don't care. I care about my my listeners' time. We're going 1 to 40. I'm starting off with a bang. Finishing
that's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out.
Right. Well, I guess we will. So we're going to talk about in chunks of 10, the first 10. So I'm going to name the first 10 names. Number 1, Jordan Travis. Not really a surprise at all. Brendan had a really good article about that that I thought it gave some very detailed analysis. So it was an awesome article, Brendan. I'll let you talk about that here in a second. But he was number 1. Number 2, defensive tackle Fabian Lovett. Number 3, safety Jamie Robinson. Number 4, defensive end Jared Verse. 5, interior lineman Dylan Gibbons. Then we've got Amari Cooper, Robert Scott at the 7 spot. Oh, back-to-back Bobs. Robert Cooper at 8, Dennis Briggs at 9, and Tatum Bethune, the first linebacker, at number 10. So, Brendan, I want you to talk about Jordan Travis. I want you to talk about that really, really great article that's on Knowles 24/7. If you guys haven't read it yet, please read it. I think it was called 10 Reasons Why Jordan Travis is Better Than You Think, which, I mean, that's very presumptive, Brendan. I mean, they could have the same opinion. However, I want you to talk about it. Then Adam and Kev, once he's done, you hop in and what you liked about the article, or maybe some things that you would have added, weren't fleshed out, whatever you think. But Brendan, go ahead and explain that, because I thought it was very well done.
Oh, thank you. First off, no one is thinking of Jordan Travis the same way I am. I'm the president of the Jordan Travis fan club, the JTrav Hive. So it is not presumptuous of me. It's actually a pretty fair assumption that no one feels about JTrav the way I do, not to make it weird. So anyways, with Jordan Travis and with this article, really what I want to do is kind of delve into some of the stats, some of like the more like metric-y numbers, not just basic stuff, and try to put context to it. Because I do think that there is, I don't know if it's a vocal minority of the fan base or if it's a fairly large one. It can be hard to tell sometimes, but I think people get so enamored of their first impressions of anything in life, but for football context, like of players and what you see initially the first time. And the first examples of Jordan Travis that this Florida State fan base saw was him as a runner, but also him as a very limited passer. And even in 2020, even as he got a little bit better as a passer, still a lot of limitations. And that kind of carried over to 2021. Up and down performance at the start of the year, but really as the season kept progressing, he kept getting better. I think it's something that Kev and AB saw as well, like especially going through this offseason, us all working together and going through film, going through metrics and some of the fun like stat websites I've been able to share with them. Like there's all these numbers out there showing like, darn, like just as a passer, he's like a top 40 passer nationally. Then you blend that with his prolificness on offense as a runner. Like there's a lot there that I think gets lost in the weeds with Jordan Travis because some of it like optically doesn't look great. He doesn't always do it in an orthodox manner. So a lot of it was like clearing up these misconceptions. Like one thing that I'll point to in the article, and I won't go over all 10 points I made, but one was that people think he can't throw over the middle of the field because in 2020 it was a totally like it was barren wasteland. There was no going over the middle of the field. He wasn't throwing between the hashes. And when he did,
why was that? Because of his receivers, play calling, or what?
I think part of it was they didn't trust him to do that, to have the arm strength and to have the confidence and zip just to get it, 10 yards with. That's a high traffic area. There's a lot of bad things that can happen when you throw the ball in the middle of the field, depending on how the defense is playing you. And so I think it was a trust thing. And even like last year or this past season, Trey, he didn't really throw the ball over the middle a ton early in the year. I think like in the first 4 or 5 games, he only threw it in between the hashes, like intermediately, like 10 times. And then in the final 4 or 5 games, they got expanded about 3 or 4 times a game. Still not a huge part of the offense. It's a small sample size, but he was legitimately the most efficient quarterback at the Power 5 level when going 10 yards downfield between the middle of the numbers. So again, small sample size, but like he was really good and effective. And I think part of that is because he's so mobile. The defense has to kind of drift with him a little bit. And that opens these big passing lanes where he can kind of just lay it up and get it to someone crossing over the middle of the field. So there's a lot of things about Jordan Travis that people don't appreciate, I think. And that's kind of what the story was supposed to point out is like, hey, he's maybe a little bit better than a lot of people give him credit for.
Kev, what'd you think about Brendan's story? Agree, disagree? Anything you would have added?
Yeah, I think he nailed it. And I think the really key point, not to nail it too hard, but the story with him is he can't throw the ball over the middle of the field. And I think based off eye test, based off everything we've heard in the media, the narratives that have surrounded him, this seems to be the thing that comes up over and over when people want to hate on Jordan Travis. But when you look at the stats, when you look at the numbers, clearly he's not having trouble throwing the ball over the middle of the field. And maybe you can question whether he's holding the ball, he's not throwing it when things are open, and he's only throwing things when they're wide open, and that's why the success rate looks good over the middle of the field. But I mean, the graphic that I have up on the screen, the middle of the field's his best area of throwing the football, and that tends to be the case for kids that might not have the best arm strength. So he's a top 40 passer, but according to pretty much every stat, but you can't take that in a vacuum either. We've talked about the wide receiver room struggling, the offensive line room struggling. So he's throwing this. He's a top 40 passer with a below average offensive line, with a below average wide receiver room. It's not like pitching stats where it's just pitcher versus batter. There's someone else catching the ball who very well could drop the ball,
Correct.
And that's important to take into account.
Adam, anything else you want to add on Jordan Travis? Because I had a lineman question from this group of top 10, but if you had something you wanted to add on Jordan, I'll let you go back to back.
I do like that both gentlemen pointed out the sample size, because I do think that it can be misleading. Go Knowles is commenting in the chat, and I tend to agree with them.
What's up,
I think that sample size it can help us to draw some bad conclusions or some false conclusions when it comes to Jordan as a passer. But I do look at the last 2 games of the year for him. He was a 60% passer, around 250 yards a game. When they really kind of opened it up, they were doing some 5 wide stuff and allowed him to, be a quarterback essentially. So I agreed with Brendan's article. We workshopped a lot of that, and we've been workshopping a lot of that kind of us on an aside, Kev, Brendan, and myself. So we're all step in step with what we think Jordan Travis is. We think he's going to be a successful top 25-ish quarterback this upcoming season.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
The thing about the sample size is football is a low sample size sport, right? That's why people can look so different game to game, because there's 40 plays, like 50 plays per game. That's not a big sample size, no matter how you slice it. So you do what you can with what you got. And so far, the limited sample size we have says that he's an improved passer over the middle of the field.
Yeah, Trey, before you get to the lineman question, I've got one for Brendan. Let me find it here.
Yeah, please bombard us with questions in the chat. Yeah, we love you all.
AJ Perry asked, because I think he would this player.
Bring it up on screen.
This player would slot here. How do I do that?
He can't do it. He can't do it. He doesn't have to. Only you
power. Son of a nutcracker.
Oh, you think this gives you power?
Where would Winston Wright be in your top 40 if he was healthy?
Oh, that's a good question. Top 10, easily. Yeah. He would have been if we knew exactly who he was going to be. Micah Pitman, spoiler alert, is pushing at 11, I think.
He's 11.
Yeah. He's okay. So
first wide receiver. Yep.
We've got a question about him coming up.
He's propped up a little bit because of Winston Wright's questionable availability. Hoping to get an update with Mike Norvell on Wednesday morning at the ACC kickoff to kind of know what Winston's status is going to be at the start of camp coming up here. But yeah, if healthy, Winston Wright would have been by far your most productive wide receiver that you brought in on the roster, probably your most explosive. So top 10, I would even venture to say top 5 would be reasonable discussion to have.
Nice.
There you go, AJ Perry.
There you go, 73. Take it or leave it. All right. Things that were interesting to me, because you mentioned like positional importance. And on this first crop of top 10, talking to the lineman, Adam, you've got Fabian Lovett, an interior guy, over Jared Verse, an edge guy, a pass rusher, which is interesting because normally when you see things in the NFL draft, there's always more of a premium put on the pass rush. Another thing that was interesting is you've got Florida State's assumed or definitely going to be their left tackle, Robert Scott, below Dylan Gibbons, another interior lineman. So, Adam, did you agree with those rankings? Do you think that the talent gap justifies putting those guys over some other dudes that have more important positions on the team, at least historically, just going by what GMs do in the NFL draft?
Yeah, the value obviously is there, especially in the NFL, and quarterbacks, defensive ends, left tackles, right, and right tackles. I think to some have come a long way, and then down at D-back. I thought that putting Fabian Lovett number 2 overall in the top 40 was interesting.
Disagreement. That's what I want.
You son of a standpoint that I think that if Brendan is the J-Trav Hive president, I've been the Jamie Robinson president from day one.
Yes.
Nobody stood on that. Nobody stood on that young man's shoulders like I have. I think he's the best football player on the team. He would have been my number 2. He would have been pushing number 1 for me, but you're always going to put the quarterback
over the quarterback, dude.
You're always going to put the quarterback number 1. I get it. But I think this defense goes as Jamie Robinson goes, and I think we saw that last year when they were able to get him back to that free safety spot and get him comfortable there, and they took him out of that nickel role. The back end of the defense really kind of got solidified, and they started playing a lot better. I think we're going to see his impact felt even more this upcoming season as they're able to do even more with him as he's in his second year of the system and more comfortable. So for me, he would have moved up. As for the line question, I'm an Eagles fan. I remember back to the days of Andy Reid and his tenure when he was with Philadelphia Eagles, and they always believed in building building your defense right down the middle with your tackles, your linebackers, and your safeties. So I'm cool with valuing a player like Fabian Lovett, who I think is probably your best defensive lineman. I think he's got the most defensive upside or defensive line upside. a player. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if he goes, day 2 of the NFL draft. I'm not sure what kind of feedback he's gotten, but he's a super talented player. He could be your most disruptive in the middle there. I think he could take games over if he can find that consistency, game in, game out, rep in, rep out. So it's cool with him being up there. The offensive lineman, I think it speaks to the value of those positions. I don't know if they're as talented of players as some of the guys around them, but I do think it speaks to the value that you got to get out of those guys and the importance that they are going to play in the success of this team this year.
Regardless of position, who's everybody's like 3 or 4 best players on the team? Just best, regardless of position.
I did an exercise before the spring and after, where I just top players. So instead of important, like if I was rating it in the sense, I love lists. If we were doing it in the sense of like the NCAA video game series, like an overall grade.
Yeah.
I think Jamie Robinson and Fabian Lovett are your 1, 2. And I think you can, for this list, they were 2 and 3 for me, but they were interchangeable. I could have made an argument for either one of those guys. And then after that, I think Jordan Travis is up there for as far as what he does as a quarterback. Maybe Robert Cooper would be the other one I would put in that list in terms of just overall knowing what you're going to get out of them. But yeah, those would be probably my 3 to 4 best guys on the team.
Okay. Interesting. You two guys, Adam, Kev, you agree with that as far as like who just, like I said, regardless of just whatever position they play, just the best football players on the team?
I wouldn't be surprised to see Cooper up there in that discussion by the end of the season as a top 5 player.
Amarion
Which
or Robert?
Coop?
Yeah, Duke.
Okay.
He was great in the spring.
Yeah, he looked really solid.
Top 5 today and top 5 end of season could be like drastically different.
True.
I think he's borderline top 5 today.
Yeah, I think going into today, it's Coop, Verse, Jamie, Jordan, and Lovett.
Okay. So not too different. Not too different than this list.
End of season, I think you could see Trey Benson being in there if he has the kind of year that, I think some people think he might be able to.
All right, let's move on to the next phase, 11 through 20. One thing I did, do you guys all think that Tatum Bethune is the best linebacker on this team?
No.
Yes, I do.
I think Deloach is better.
I think Tatum Bethune.
Brendan, Adam, you guys talk. Why you think Deloach? Why you think Bethune? Because we're like Kalen's at number 18, so we're going to talk about him anyway. Might as well just get this little comparison done right now.
I think Deloach is just a better athlete.
He is more athletic. Deloach has a little bit more range to him. I'll tag Kevin here for me because he was there in the spring. When I'll just say real quick, when Bethune hits you, there was a little bit of a different oomph that you could sense in here. Which
whatever. UCF bias, not buying it, ska boy.
I think they're different players. I think they play different roles. I think that Kalen Deloach is more of a traditional will linebacker, where Bethune is more of a traditional Mike linebacker. I think Deloach is more what you're looking for in a modern linebacker. I think he's a little bit faster, a little bit more fluid than Bethune. I think the reason why I would say I think right now Bethune's a better linebacker than Deloach is because I think Bethune has better instincts as a linebacker, and I think that can't be understated. I think there were still some times, even towards the end of the year, he improves throughout the season, but there were times towards the end of the season where Deloach was still a step behind. He made the wrong read. He was overcommitted, and so I think he's the better athlete. I think he has a higher upside, but I think right now Bethune is the better linebacker.
Okay, that's fair. All right, just want to get that out of the way. Number 11, wide receiver Micah Pitman, the Oregon transfer. Number 12, Darius Washington. We don't know what position he's going to play on the offensive line. Trayshawn Ward, Trey Benson. That's interesting. I get a little talk. It's funny because we talked about Trey Benson, but he's ranked below Trayshawn Ward, albeit one spot. Akeem Dent, the safety, 15. Dimitri Emmanuel, Big Meech. Larry Hoover, number 16. Kaden Lyles at number 17, which is interesting. There was some discussion, at least on this program, if he was going to be your starting center. 18, Deloach, we talked about him. 19, Kevin Knowles. 20, Tate Rhodenbecker. Kevin, smiling at that one. That is interesting. So Does anything on this portion pop out to you guys? Actually, Adam, didn't you say somebody was asking about Micah Pitman?
Poor Go Knowles. He's dying to have his question answered about Micah Pitman.
All
Kevin,
right, well,
we could get it up here.
Let's relieve him.
At the bottom of the chat.
Let's relieve old Go Knowles.
So why is Micah Pitman valued as a fringe top 10 player when he does not necessarily have the production to back up that ranking? Is it because of the wide receiver play in that room?
No response.
Brendan, that sounds like that one's directed towards you, kiddo.
Yeah, that's it. The wide receivers were really bad last year. We documented this in the failure to launch series that we all kind of worked on together, and I drew the wide receiver short straw and wrote about that position group, and it was arguably, if not definitively, the worst wide receiver unit at the Power 5 level. Micah Pitman certainly isn't the elixir that's going to make you a high octane passing attack, but he does certainly have the ability to raise the floor and add a level of competency to that position group. So he's gadgety. You can do different things with him. We saw it in the spring that he can do some things after the catch. He's powerful with the ball, but also win 50-50 balls downfield. There's examples of film of him winning one-on-ones and getting space off the line of scrimmage, which you can do that as a wide receiver. I know, guys, don't freak out. I know the spring game wasn't a great showing, but there's evidence of him fielding punts and returning it in games as well, which I also added into the mix because it was so atrocious last year. Being competent at it probably saves you 100 yards of offense if you could just field the ball cleanly. So yeah, that's why I know the production isn't great, but someone's got to catch the ball, and he might be the best of the group right now.
The fact that your number one wide receiver based on Winston Wright's health, but the first ranked wide receiver is the 11th. Shut up, mofo. The fact that your number one wide receiver, according to this list, is only the 11th most important person on your entire team, that shows you just how bad.
And people are still questioning that.
Yeah, exactly. That's still too high. That just shows you like how bad this unit was last year. So I'm good with that. Adam, Kaden Lyles, do you have him right now as your starting center? What do you think of that ranking? Should Mo be there? I mean, do you think have you changed? Because I remember you didn't think Kaden Lyles was going to be the starting center, right? Game one.
Yeah, I'm still not sold. We're going to see on that. I'm anxious to see in the summer when camp gets started here in a week or so where he's going to be at. It was interesting to me. We're going to get to some of the player weights here in a little bit, but it was interesting to me that Maurice Smith was listed at 288 pounds, almost 290 pounds. It was like a 15 or 16 pound weight gain for him. So if Maurice has put some weight on, we know that they like him. We do know that they wanted to give him a little bit of an opportunity to kind of take a step back this year and hope that Kaden Lyles sees that job. But we didn't see it in the spring. I wasn't necessarily confident in what I saw with some of his footwork and stuff like that led me to believe he was going to take that job. So I mean, we're going to see. I think it's a little high just based on the fact that we're not 100% that he's going to start. But that's sneaky Brendan. He often knows a lot more than he lets on.
Yeah. Well, 17-pound weight gain, actually the official, which is about how much poundage I've put on since Taco Bell brought back the Mexican pizza. So good for Mo. Now listen, Kevin, you're the biggest tatey that ever tated on a tating forum.
He's the only Tate.
20 for Tate Rhodenbecker. What say you? About right, or would 20 be the spot of no matter who the backup quarterback was? And also, Brendan, after Kevin either agrees or disagrees with your Tate ranking, is Tate being so high a function of his ability, his projection, or go Knowles, you suck, no more questions from you? Or is that really just a function of how scared we are about Jordan Travis's health? Kevin first, then you, Brendan. Marinate on it. And go Knowles, how dare you slander the Mexican pizza? Just disgusting behavior.
Yeah, I think clearly it's got to be because of his the injury concern over Jordan Travis. He hasn't played a full season yet.
22 high for you, Kev?
I think that 20 is kind of where I would put him. This is
22 low for you, Kev.
I think 20th is a reasonable ranking. I think that
we are laughing for the audio listeners. Somebody has done just a bang up Photoshop of Tate Rhodenbecker as the Heisman winner. Just fantastic. Okay, so what'd you thought? Laughing at the stupid Photoshop. Great radio. Is 20s about right for you, Kev?
Yeah. All jokes aside, I think 20 is right. He's the backup quarterback. He will be the most important player on the field if Jordan Travis goes down. So you've got to have him on the list. I think realistically, Jordan Travis probably will go out at some point in time, and Tate Rhodenbecker, as long as it's in the first half of the season, Tate Rhodenbecker is going to be the guy that goes in. It's yet to be seen whether or not.
Interesting that you worded it like that.
I not to say that he wouldn't be at the end of the season, but I think once AJ Duffy's able to get some snaps under his belt, there might be more of a consideration for, what's the best thing for the team moving forward in terms of who should be getting these snaps. But at the beginning of the season, you need to win games, and I think Tate Rhodenbecker gives you the best chance to do that at the beginning of the season.
Oh, hold on a second. I want to delve into that a little bit deeper, because I know Brendan has said it, and I know there are other outlets out there that have discussed Tate Rhodenbecker's progress in the spring. And now we're having the conversation that maybe AJ Duffy's going to take away some snaps as the season goes on.
Yeah, you two guys were out there. I mean, what do you think? Tate Rhodenbecker gets in. The panic level 1 to 10 if he gets some snaps as your quarterback in a game of importance.
Well, last year we would have said, based on what we'd seen the previous season, 10, right?
Yeah.
If he got in the game,
big time 10, fat 10, a 10.
A 10. Almost caught me there. Almost continued the quote.
Yeah.
Probably like a 6 or 7. Like I still would have a lot of concerns, but he did definitely get better in the spring. And
okay.
Most people don't want to admit to that, but there was progress.
Do you think Kevin, Kevin, you kind of alluded to it before you caught yourself. Brendan, do you think that there's any chance that a game 10, if there was a Jordan Travis injury, that you could actually see AJ Duffy in place of Tate Rhodenbecker based on what you saw in the spring?
Potentially. I think a lot of it depends on what they do progression-wise during the season. The staff does legitimately like Tate Rhodenbecker. Like, they do think highly of him. They think that there's still a lot of development that he can have because really, again, the 2020 season was kind of weird. So last year was really, they look at like his first full year of normal football, and you've already seen progress and strides. So I mean, it's reasonable to like maybe long-term you try to invest in Duffy, especially if you're talking about like Mike Norvell job security. If you can sell like, hey, this guy came in as a true freshman and looked adequate. We know what we're doing at quarterback, and this is kind of our linchpin moving forward. I guess I could see that all kind of like meld into this nice little narrative. But that's really far off. I think that Tate was far ahead of AJ Duffy throughout the spring.
Yes.
Yeah, but it wasn't even close. But the guys are allowed to develop during the course of the season too.
Okay. We're halfway done. I'm going to kind of speed through the back half. We're going to do groups of 10. Anything that sticks out at you guys, I want you to know, because I do want to get to the player weights and I want to take questions. If there are questions kind of piling up in the chat, we want to be very like interactive. Adam, any questions before I kind of get through this next 10? Okay.
Yeah, let's get them
next
done.
10. We already talked about this. 21, Winston Wright. Number 22, Bless Harris, which is interesting based on where we think he could start. 23, Johnny Wilson. 24, Ontario Wilson. 25, Mo Smith. 26, you're starting veteran tight end Cam McDonald at 26. That's interesting. 27, Derek McClendon. 28, Malik McLean. 29, Renardo Green. That kind of popped out at me a little bit. I thought that was kind of low. 30, Lawrence Toafili. Anything that pops out to you guys there? And I think it is interesting that literally, I think every Ontario Wilson was your first non-transfer wide receiver mentioned at 24.
Wow.
Yep.
I think McClendon deserves to be higher, personally.
What do you think about that, Brendan? Defend yourself. Okay, fair.
I mean, McClendon's definitely he's the physical transformation has been impressive. He's at 245 pounds now, but it's been a transformation of like taking some bad weight, turning into muscle. He looked more explosive in the spring for sure. But he's also a guy who he had 4 sacks last year, and that was as a pass rush specialist with being able to kind of clean up on a lot of what Jermaine Johnson and Kier Thomas were doing. So I mean, in the mid-20s, he's a high-end backup, which is basically how I view him. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I think the thing with McClendon and why you can justify him being so much lower than Burst, despite potentially starting above him at some point at the beginning of the season, is because you kind of know what you have with Derek McClendon. You kind of know that he's going to be a step ahead of last season, and he's going to be a solid answer at defensive end. But we're not asking who's the best player. We're saying who's the most important. And Verse could either not be ready for Power 5 competition, or he could be a guy that flashes and stands out. And so that's why he's so highly rated as a potential impact player as compared to McClendon. In my opinion, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, Malik McClain, 28. I feel that that's a correct ranking based on what we've seen. That's disappointing, like with the kid's catch radius and his athletic ability. I think we could all kind of agree on that. I'd really like for that to change. I really we thought that he might have potential to be a number 1 wide receiver, and we've got him. God, he's either the 4th or 5th on this list.
And he apparently, and Kev can attest to this, he was pretty kind of, I was gonna say mediocre. He was just quiet in the spring. Like, he wasn't bad. He just didn't really pop out with some other guys were. But indication is that he's been one of the better wide receivers during some of the OTA, player workout stuff. So they're really excited about what he's done in the summertime. So we'll see.
Player on this list not named Winston Wright that has a chance to rise the most in this range.
Johnny Wilson, maybe.
Johnny Wilson's the one I would have had a biggest problem with for the exact reason that Verse was rated so high, right? Because if Johnny Wilson goes off, your offense is you have a top 15 offense if Johnny Wilson is,
and the way he's going to be used in the blocking game, I really think. I'm with you, Kevin. As far as like a mover on the. Toafili at 30, I think he's definitely not. I think he's more talented than the 30th best player on the team. That's just a function of how the running backs are going to be used. So I think he has potential to go up higher. But yeah, man, Johnny Wilson, some of those I could still think of those like run blocking and clips that we saw from his highlights at Arizona State. That kid's disgusting. Like, if he just catches the ball 30% more, which is ridiculous. Like, I mean, your wide receiver should catch pretty much everything that hits your hands. But, dude, even with just a gradual improvement, the stuff that Mike Norvell can do with him is like that little nub, like at the end of the line and getting those angles on those like linebackers and cornerbacks and stuff. That is tantalizing.
He's 6'7", blocks like a tackle, runs like a wide receiver, just can't catch a football.
That's tough, man.
That's a great combination.
That's a weird combination.
This is a toughie. He can catch the football pretty remarkably. It's super inconsistent. He makes some pretty special catches too. And this, for context, like this part of the list is probably like the least confident I am of any grouping. This is the one you guys could argue with me, and I'm just gonna pretty much put my tail between my legs and take it right now, because this is like Winston Wright could eventually, like if he's what he was pre-injury, top 5. Bless Harris could be your starting right tackle and be a top 10 guy. Tate Rhodenbecker, if he gets in the game, week 2, he's all of a sudden your most important player. Johnny Wilson, so there's like half.
Mo Smith might be your starting center. Cam McDonald is your number 1 tight end with a bullet, and like he's gonna get his opportunities if he can capitalize. He could shoot up way up that list.
I guess the thing with Cam is he's had 2 years of that, and it's like we kind of know what it is. It's kind of in the Ontario Wilson, Keyshawn Helton range, where it's like
I know he's a starter. I'd have a tough time even having him in the top 40.
Who?
Cam McDonald. I think he's a guy that we've advocated for and said, get him the ball, but it just seems like he doesn't make the plays when they come to him. And
I know, but even
the ball doesn't seem to find him. And I know he's a starter, but I'd almost rather go to using a guy like McClain as a matchup.
Say White Rector.
No, definitely not. McClain, Johnny Wilson, guys that can run and jump and do a lot of things out there.
Get a little weight on Burrell, and maybe he can kind of be in that role.
It just, I don't know. I know they're going to use him, and McDonald's going to play because they're going to play some 12 personnel. But it's just a player I think it's going to maybe get shuffled out of the fold a little bit.
900 guys in that tight end room, and we're still clamoring to convert people from other positions to it. That is God, what a strange trip that whole thing's been. I'm ready to move on to the final 10.
Let's do it.
All right, 31. Slot fade specialist, Jakai Douglas. 32, true freshman, Azariah Thomas. 33, Alex Mastromano, the Panther from Australia. 34, Amari Gainer. I think that could maybe piss some people off. 35, Jarrett Jackson. I'm interested. That one, I like Jarrett Jackson a lot, actually. Bonus rating, Justin Turnitine. 36, defensive tackle, Malcolm Ray, who continues to transform his body. We're in the body transformation brotherhood right now. DJ Lundy. I can't wait to talk about his weights. Weird. After this, Jarquez McClellan, number 38, which I think would probably, that's where Brendan was talking about. Maybe Greedy Vance would have been around this range. 39, Shaheem Brown, number 40. Sonnone Man Crush, Wyatt Rector. Adam, just go ahead and just say what you want to say about Wyatt Rector. I'm just going to let you get that off your chest right now.
He wouldn't be on this list if he, Brendan. I don't, conspiracy theory. Brendan forgot Greedy Vance on purpose so he could put Wyatt Rector on the damn list.
Maybe subconsciously.
And Sam McCall.
Yeah, sorry.
We'll see. I don't know if Sam's going to play this year. We'll see.
Why do you say that based off his spring game performance? That's interesting. I want you to dive into that.
Well, he is very raw still. Now, he's someone who continually got better over the spring, but and we're there at practice. There's some issues, like even like understanding like nuances of like fielding a return. And so there's a ton of football he has to learn. I'm not confident with thinking that he's going to be someone who is going to be relied on early. Maybe he's so good in practice consistently for weeks on end that you have to force him into the lineup by the end of the year. He's not someone I go into the season saying, yeah, definitely you're going to have to play him. I could be wrong on that.
What do you guys think about that?
Zach comments that he killed it in the spring game.
He did pick off that one pass in the red zone in which he knew where the ball was going.
No. There was we broke down the spring game. Like, that is true. That one is that he knew what the play was. That's practice hero stuff. I was way more impressed with the physicality because the rap on him coming out that he wasn't physical, and I thought he looked very physical in that spring game.
I mean, Azariah Thomas, I think, has got kind of more upside in terms of just like the length and long speed, and just I think more polished and mature. But in terms of just like this explosiveness, like fluidity, Sam McCall, I would say him and Azariah Thomas look completely different than what you have at the roster, like most positions, just athletically, the way they move. So he has a chance. I don't know. You're pretty set at cornerback. I don't know, man. He's just not someone who
You know what I hear right now?
What?
I hear wah, 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 wah. I'm trying to get Wyatt Rector on the list. That's all I hear. Hello? Is it working?
Even if Justin Turnitine had made it on the campus like a week earlier, Wyatt Rector wouldn't have been on the list. So even my omission, intentional or subconscious, of Greedy Vance. But hey, I guess you guys think special teams don't matter, is what I'm hearing, Coach AB.
Yeah, I probably
hate special teams. You're talking to the wrong guy.
Okay.
We don't play those games.
I have a problem with this part of the list.
Well, go ahead, Kevin. You're so agreeable most of the time. What are you talking about, mate? Let's talk about it.
Unless I think Amari Gainer's too high.
Dude, at 34, you actually think he interesting?
I mean, if he changed the letters before his name, I think he might be there. But
what into what?
The end.
It's not a well-kept secret. I think he's a defensive end.
And that's just based off of his play in space. I mean, that's something. I know you feel this way.
So if Fox is a hybrid, technically that role is like a 3-4 outside linebacker. I think that's what Amari Gainer was born to play. I think he was born to play outside linebacker in a 3-4. He's playing middle linebacker in a 4-3. It's just not the right fit for him.
Does him actually being an athlete, albeit one that's out of position a decent amount of the time, at a position where we're bereft of athletes, do you think that maybe that's why contributed him to being on this list, or what do you mean?
I don't think his athleticism translates though at a stack backer.
Why do you say that?
When he's got to open and run, he doesn't do it that well. I mean, he does get sideline to sideline okay, but when it's time to open and run in pass coverage, I mean, he struggles at that, just like DJ Lundy does. So I don't buy that his athleticism is some great asset at linebacker. I haven't seen it to date. I mean,
okay, yeah, that's fair, and I know you guys feel that way, but I think
he's appropriately ranked. I mean, I think this is a good spot for him. I actually probably would maybe even have him a little bit higher because and I've been no fan of his game, but I do think he's probably going to be your third linebacker, maybe your fourth. And
when you're running a 4-3, which you will do like 15 to 20% of the time, like you're only running it if he's available. Like I don't even know who the backup Sam linebacker would be. Like I think you scrap that out of your.
He is your Sam linebacker.
Right. So you scrap that, I think, more or less out of the game plan if he's not there, which is fine, and you're only going to be able to use that effectively sometimes. But like that is a role that he has. He has a clear defined role, and that's kind of what like the back end of the list. Like you could go with. Like we could go with the Sam McCall of someone who, like, right now, I don't know what his role is, but maybe by the end of the year, he's so talented to where he's starting. Like, you could roll the dice there, or you go with someone who you feel like has.
This is red. What is this, Kevin? What is this, Kevin? What is this thing?
I have this for the next video I'm going to put out here in the next week on X's and O's channel, but this is a passer rating. So when targeted, the linebackers in coverage as a passer rating.
Yeah, so for people that are hearing this in the pleasure of their car, Amari Gainer, when targeted, gives up a 93.8% passer rating, which I'm guessing by this, it says that is the 337th best, in this case, 337th worst in the entire country.
Yeah, out of all linebackers.
Out of all, how many total linebackers are there?
400-ish.
337 out of 400. Dope. Very dope. Okay, I get it. Let's do you guys have anything else you want to talk? I thought we went through this list in great detail. Anything else before you want to get to the weights? Adam, are there some questions in the chat? I think we'll get through the weights pretty quickly. There's only like a couple in each one that really stand out.
I think we've answered a lot of the questions that have come up for the most part about kind of the players and their rankings. Yeah, I thought
you came out pretty good, Brendan. Came out smelling like roses, brother. It is a tough, thankless job. And now that I'm part of the team, don't you dare ask me to do that nonsense because I don't want any part of it.
I think it's impressive that the top 40 lists comparing it to last year.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, it's kind of night and day, right? I mean, the last year we're talking. When you got down to like the 40th guy, it's almost like that guy shouldn't even be on the roster. This year, it really, I mean, we're talking about guys that are going to have potential roles, and we do see upside. A.Z. Thomas, Amari Gainer, even though we've been tough on him, there is some upside. He can play a little bit. He does give you some value on your roster. Wyatt Rector, even. My God, I'm going to say it. He can play special teams.
Clip this, Kev. Clip this now. Clip it now. Yeah, Brendan, I mean, you do this every year, man. Obviously a much more improved roster than it was last year. As far as like the level of talent, do you see like in like a team that it's like analogous to? Like, does this compare to any like Jimbo team, any Taggart team? Like what's a team that this reminds you of as far as level of talent?
Honestly, some of the Taggart teams had more talent than this one did, but I think this team will win more games.
Cool. Yeah.
So instead of answering like what I think it's going to be comparable to, because I mean, I've only covered Florida State, I say only now, since 2013, and just so happens there was a lot of really good teams there from a talent perspective. May have covered like a run of NFL draft picks that was unparalleled for at least a few years after that was setting records. So this team isn't going to do that. But if we want to compare it to last year's team, and that is the one thing I really like about this exercise, because honestly, it is a tedious exercise. It's something just to kind of pass the time in the summer when we're in the dog days and trying to find content and have talking points. But it is actually informative for me to sit back, evaluate the roster thoroughly, and really try to like put things in tiers, figure things out. And I will say it is markedly better. And I felt much more confident this year than I did last year. Last year, I'm putting it together, and after like even like number one was Mackenzie Milton. Like that was such a huge question mark. Andrew Parchment was a question. Even Devontae Love-Taylor, we didn't know how healthy he was going to be, and he was in the top 5. I feel much better about the depth. I felt like there were guys who I was putting off the list that I was like, I think this guy would have a chance to make it in there. Depth is better. And even that like maybe like 5 to like 15 range, I think is got a lot more answers. And that's how I rank things. Like if you don't have a bunch of question marks, if there's answers and I have some level of like background information of knowing I've seen this done before, you just got to feel a lot better about it moving forward. And I think across the board, there's a lot more baseline of like competency to believe in this year's team than last year's.
Well said.
Thank you.
Let's move on to kid weights. Okay. We're going to go right into the old quarterbacks. And the one that obviously pops out, Jordan Travis from 201 to 212, an 11-pound weight game. Rhodenbecker, hold serve, 196 to 196. AJ Duffy from 223 to 214. Brendan is the 11 pounds, nothing to sneeze at, especially with the kid with Jordan Travis, who hasn't really put on a ton of weight, at least at the beginning part of his college career. Does he look more the part? Does he look more sturdy? Is this functional weight going to help against injury? That's all we care about. Is he still fast? Is he not going to get hurt?
So, first of all, we saw him about a month ago, and he did look a little bit bigger. He said he was about 207 in June. I was told a week or so ago that he was up to 220. I don't know if he ever quite made it to that, but weight does fluctuate. But to be 11 pounds heavier than he was in the spring is significant. And it's significant for this reason. He's someone who struggled to keep on weight recently. He does. It's not a secret at this point. Like, people know he has an autoimmune thing that kind of makes it difficult for him to consistently keep on weight.
Okay.
So that's been great that he's been able to. That's a huge development. That's really positive for Jordan to have that. So for him to be significantly having gained weight this season and to be over a certain threshold, that's a big deal. That portends to him being able to, even if he gets hurt or misses some time during the season, like you're not gonna be playing in the 190s, which is something that was happening late last year after like the flu and whatnot. So that's important. I don't know what that's going to portend to with speed, but I think he'll still be fairly explosive.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything you guys want to add on that, or no? I think that was pretty substantial.
No, I think more so than the weight gain itself, while it's significant for his health, I think it's showing that his body's, whatever they're doing to manage whatever it is,
getting some results.
Yeah, they're getting results, and I think that is ultimately going to be beneficial to his health throughout the course of the season.
Agreed. Moving down running backs, Trayshawn Ward gained 3 pounds, and then everybody else kind of stayed the same. Do any of these guys look different? Brandon, I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't see a couple more gains on some of these guys.
Yeah, some of these are weird, like Trey Benson being the exact same weight that he was at the end of the spring, Lawrence Toafili. I wonder if all these numbers are totally updated.
Yeah.
And they are supposed to be.
If numbers are exactly the same,
I can't
that's
imagine
a big red
that,
flag.
right? Like, that's crazy.
And it's like that for like about 30 to 40% of the roster, unless this weight staff is so damn good where they're able to keep the strength staff, they're able to keep people in the exact weight all the time. But
you fluctuate like 5 pounds a day.
Or like that's even like the J-Trav thing, like people getting mad that he wasn't up to 220. I've taken poops in the morning and lost like 4 pounds. Like, it happens.
He always goes there with you, doesn't he?
Oh,
You always just
you're
find a way to
talking
leave
about
it
a good BM.
After that
That's
wonderful reception you got on the last thing, you just couldn't wait to just drop that deuce right at the end. Fantastic. I'm with you. Listen, I don't want to criticize Josh Storm because I don't need him coming up to Iowa and bending me over, like breaking me in half like Bane style. And I'm adopted by the doc. I don't need any of
you had
that.
to rub it in that yours was a better Bane impersonation.
It wasn't
you
that
think
much.
that quote gives you power.
It wasn't that much better. It was still bad. We're both bad at it. I got nothing for running backs really. I hope that a lot of these are kind of typos. So I
let me tell you, Trey
changes.
Benson. I had to talk to Trey. I didn't have to. I chose to talk to Trey for a story that we're doing at start preseason camp. He is gigantic. Like, it was intimidating sitting next to, like, his arms like were popping out of his shirt. I just don't like I don't know. He's 215 pounds. Like, he's got to be like 230. He was huge. It was crazy.
I hope he is, and I hope he's going to be the bowling ball they need.
That kid, that is. I'm interested to see. Like, we haven't recruited since Mike Norvell has been there, like a real game changer at running back. I don't know if Trey Benson's going to be like a game changer, like upper level elite college football running back, but he looks like a damn good one. And Mike Norvell's gotten some really productive results with good running backs. I'm interested to see what he can do with a damn good one, potential really damn good one.
The kid's got a chance to be different.
Yeah. All right. Tight end. Let's see if there's anything here that pops
just keep
out.
Scrolling. Keep scrolling.
Cam McDonald's up 5
He put on
pounds.
5 more pounds. Yeah.
He's at a career high there.
Markinson Douglas continues to lose weight.
He looked great in June when we saw him. He looked for him and they call him Biscuit, like that's his nickname. So
top 40 on that alone. How does he look on the field, man? Does he look? I guess he's a redshirt sophomore. He's still got a couple more years to develop. But
they think he's legitimately like an NFL caliber talent. Why that isn't translating to him getting reps, I can't answer that question. I think he catches the ball pretty well. He's not he's not a vertical threat, but he's quick. And
270-pound tight end, a vertical threat.
If he was a vertical threat, then there wouldn't be talk about him being an NFL tight end. It'd be definitive. But there's something there. That's the way I'll put it. There's something there.
Yeah, I don't see anything else on that list that really jumps out to me. Kevin and Adam, what about you guys?
Brian Courtney losing 2 pounds. I mean, I guess he's cut a little bit of the baby fat and put some muscle on him. Curious to see what he does as he spends more time in the program. Jackson West, that's a guy I've been high on. See if he can catch the football. Other than that,
nice. This is the detailed analysis you guys hear from Maury. He did it.
I'm not here for the poor.
Maury Smith finally weighs more than Marcus and Douglas. He finally did it. He finally made it. Good job, Montagon. Yeah, have a party. Have a beer. Have a beer for that. Wide receivers.
Keep on
moving.
There was
a lot of this
nothing.
The same.
Yeah,
you said Pitman bulked up and then lost the weight.
Yeah.
So what? You put that in your notes. Why did you put that in there?
I talked to him and he was, again, like maybe just part of this is because I'm sitting next to players who are usually watching from like a little bit afar, and I'm just
checking them out like a weirdo. Yep, absolutely.
I mean, pays the bills, and then people pay us to talk about it. So here
Subscribe
we
to
all
Knowles
are.
24/7. Yep. Okay, continue.
So maybe part of it is just like standing next to abnormally big human beings. We're not normally used to that. But he said he was trying to lose 20 pounds before the season, and I'm looking at him like he looked bulky. He didn't look like out of shape. It was on his diet, like he basically eats like a giant salad with a bunch of ranch dressing every day, and that's kind of like his main meal. Then eats a bunch of fruit. So I think a lot of the strategy was for some of these guys.
A lot of nutrition in ranch dressing. That's solid. That's good stuff.
That buttermilk really.
It may have been a Caesar dressing. I don't want to be misquoted.
Hidden Valley, Hidden Valley NIL sponsorship.
It's just ranch with anchovies.
It's kind of interesting because he's talked in some of his videos on his YouTube channel about that the staff was adamant that he needed to lose weight. Like they wanted him to cut pounds.
So I think he bulked up, and then now he's losing it a little bit.
Look, Brendan, you bulk and cut, man. This is
all I do.
Weightlifting This is bodybuilding 101. You bulk,
do
cut,
span at 203
cut.
is interesting to me. If they can unlock some of his, I mean, he's an explosive football player.
They're excited
the
about
guy that's
him.
got legit deep speed. If they can unlock some of his receiver ability this year, I mean, that's a big physical, explosive, fast player that can stretch a defense. I mean, that's difference making type numbers right there.
They haven't had that. They had Tamori and Terry for like half a season, and that was not a great experiment for Mike Norvell and Tamori and Terry. But they haven't had like that vertical field stretcher so far in the Norvell era. So that would be, if you can get him to run a 9 pattern, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Terry did have a cool mask though. All right, let's move on to the offensive line because this is where some interesting stuff did happen. As mentioned by the vaunted Vontagon, we finally have a center prospect who weighs more than all the tight ends on the team. So we clap for Maury Smith. 17-pound weight gain. Like I said, about 35 Mexican pizzas. The one that really jumped out to me, Robert Scott gaining 19 pounds, going from 315 to 334. Adam, I'm going to ask you about that. What do you think about that 20-pound weight gain? And then Brendan, I'll have you follow up to see, you got to see how the weight was distributed. Adam, what do you think about Robert Scott putting on that much weight? Do you have any mobility concerns with that, or does 334 is a good weight for your tackle?
I've got no concerns. I'll be curious to see where he put it on at. Did he develop his upper body some more? Because I always thought he was a little bit thin through his upper body. Could have needed some more strength in his top half. Always thought he was kind of heavy in his butt, down through his thighs and in that region for a tackle. I'm just strictly
right, of course,
professionally,
absolutely.
So I'm curious to see where he's carrying some of that added weight. But no, I don't have any concerns. He's best suited to play guard. Maybe they bulked him up to 230 so he can play guard. I doubt it. I'm sure he's going to be your starting left tackle. But I don't worry about it. I think people are making making a lot out of nothing there.
Okay, Brendan, what do you think? Did it look like a good 335?
I am extremely concerned. No, I don't know for sure. I will say this: he was dealing with a lower leg injury that kind of went through during the spring, and then after the spring, was around on a scooter sometimes. So, depending on what his mobility and workout regimen has been for the last month, I haven't checked into it. This was a way that I wasn't aware of this level of gain. I have no idea what it looks like. That's one thing for context for like all of these. We've seen the guys on and off for the last month or so, or I guess a month ago, and then maybe periodically, like in the last couple of weeks, but not regularly. So weights are different, right? Like it just depends on how it's distributed and what kind of muscle mass you have and whatnot. But with Robert Scott being not 100% at the start of the offseason conditioning program, I am curious to see what he looks like when camp starts in a week or so. That could be a cause for concern. Maybe. We'll see.
There is nothing of note to talk about for the safeties and the cornerbacks, so we will just skip them. And there's only actually maybe three more people that I want to talk about as far as like weight gain, weight loss. Defensive end Leonard Warner, he's down from 261 to 247. Fabian Lovett is actually up another 12 pounds from 306 to 318. And then DJ Lundy, that's another guy I want to talk about. He is down to 232, and I'm not really – he came in at 255, I think, right? So talk about those three guys, man. What do you – Leonard Warner, that's interesting. He's getting slimmer. Do you expect him to be a factor? Like where do you see him out in the rotation?
He's probably your fourth defensive end at best, like maybe an edge setter. Maybe if he loses a little bit of weight like that as he has, and we saw a picture of him recently, and he definitely looked slimmer. I saw him in June. The muscle definition was, God, this is so weird. I hate talking about this.
It's all right. Yeah, make it weird. The
striation,
muscularity.
Be specific.
The biceps, guys, were impressive.
Oh,
right?
boy.
Pythons. Understood.
Oh,
Brendan,
boy.
those are the show muscles. Those aren't the go muscles, man.
Kevin is Mr. Olympia. very animated during this weightlifting.
Kevin's definitely gone to the gym.
No one cares if the biceps are the least important muscle.
He's told him that himself that he's like skipped the bicep rack before or whatever.
Well, I wonder if they're cutting some weight off.
Every day's leg day.
To try to unlock
below the waist.
Oh, God. I wonder if they're trying to unlock a little bit of explosiveness in Warner.
To see Kev below the waist, join our OnlyFans.
Oh, Jesus Christ. All right, moving on. Fabian Lovett, 318.
Yeah, Lovett.
Adam, what do you think about that?
Lovett's intriguing to me. Do they want to two gap a little bit with him and Coop?
That'd be cool.
Lovett looks great. He legitimately, that's good weight that he's put on.
Yeah.
We're going to go into body part, deltoids.
I think he's going to have a big year. Excited to see him play. Jarrett Jackson's kind of hovering around. Curious to see what he's going to be.
Can I call shenanigans on Robert Cooper's weight? Like 335. You talk about when you're 335 pounds, the fluctuation day to day. Not to bring it back to the poop thing, but you guys have have you ever?
But you're doing it. What do you mean not to do
Not to
something
bring
right
it back.
before you do it?
I'm going to bring it
You never
explicitly
weighed
back.
yourself before and after, and
I mean,
notice
yeah,
that's
no.
maybe
you
coincidentally, but not like immediately. Either way, yes, I'm with you. That one, I think that's just a copy paste.
Okay.
What do we make of Chambray Jackson up 15 pounds?
He's someone that they were there were 2 or 3 guys who were being rumored in the offseason that could be transfer portal guys, and he was one of them, to be transparent. Obviously, that didn't happen. He stuck it out. They weren't sure if he was taking things seriously, and I think that the spring weight indicated that 263 at defensive tackle, you're not handling your business. Now, is it 278 now him handling his business, or is that him just having a ton of fun and the Mexican pizza life? I don't know. We'll see.
Baby, absolutely.
We'll be interested to see how that weight is distributed for him for sure. But that is a pretty drastic difference there for sure.
Last guy I want to talk about, DJ Lundy, continuing to shed pounds. What do we think? What do we think about him? We talked about third best linebacker on the team. You guys think? I mean, we've actually. I feel like when we've dissected DJ Lundy's game on our show, I feel like we've been more positive than the general consensus. We've seen him either be in the right spot and something, or just be a step off. but there's been some. I feel like we've been more impressed with than the general public. I mean, what do you guys think, Kev, Brendan, Adam, DJ Lundy, as far as maybe taking a pretty decently step up this year, or do physical limitations kind of limit how good he can really be?
Yeah, I don't think losing weight unlocks hips, unfortunately. So I think there's always going to be a level of stiffness there, just because that's what he is as a body type and as an athlete. But it's encouraging. Maybe it allows him to run a little bit better straight line. But as far as the change of direction stuff, I don't know if it necessarily does a ton for him.
What do we think?
I've kind of said
Concur?
this before. This is kind of how I've always felt about these linebackers, is that I think in today's day and age, you get a guy that looks like a safety and you bulk him up to play linebacker. I think DJ Lundy is a guy that would have been a natural linebacker in the 90s. He's got that big, thick frame. He can fill gaps. And I think for that reason, you keep him on and you have him in your back pocket as a guy that's in on run situations, or a guy that you try to hide in the passing game. Losing 15 pounds is nothing to, I mean, all credit to him. I think that will give him one extra step, and that's going to be very important. But I don't think it's going to be, all these weight things are nowhere near as important as body composition. And so
It'll help,
I think it's
but
a good
not
sign.
a solution. Yeah,
Right.
It's positive. Like you said, a lot of these things are indicator, or could be indicator of work ethic, and it's gonna help out, right? But it's not a salve, it's not a potion, it's not a cure all. But I think comprehensive, fun live stream. Adam, any questions, any quick hitters you guys want to hit before we hit this ending and get out of here?
No, we obviously went a little bit longer. I know some people dropped some questions on the Knowles 24/7 message board for us. Maybe we'll do a little bonus episode and answer a few of those questions for people. I don't want to go an hour and a half. It's a little long, so
I'm
we'll
good
save
with
those for
you.
another time.
I'm good with you. I got to finish up the terminal list. Listen, for my boys, my Navy SEALs, my Chris Pratts, I am Trey Rowland. This was a fun live stream offseason edition of the Triple Option. Guys, subscribe to the Knowles 24/7 YouTube page. Subscribe to currently the On the Bench RSS feed on Apple. What's it going to be? What's it going to be? What's it going to be, Brendan? What's the new title for all of it?
Potentially the Knowles 24/7 podcast network.
Ooh, damn, that sounds good.
Going to be
Thanks,
new
guys.
graphics. Every one of our audio is going to be there. This is going to be like the X's and Knowles show on that. It's going to be awesome. Going to be a great podcast network feed. Going to have a ton of content for you. Tell your friends, subscribe to the forum, subscribe to the message board. Recruiting is going to get stupid. The VIP articles are the best in the business. Just get ready. Lock in, because it's going to be a fun season. We're going to be with you here all the way, guys. I'm done. Keep chopping.
Chop, 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 chop.